Uh-huh.
What about dry? Do they get a difference really other than more difficult to turn? Could you repeat the question?
The question is, if I understand it, um, you know, because I do a lot of work with green wood. Question is, does it make it harder if I'm turning it out of dry wood? I really don't know that I care either way, but of course, with the green wood, you're going to depend on the species. Mesquite is better than others, but you're going to get cracks and the wood movement. But that piece of boat arc over there it's plenty dry. This, I don't know what the moisture level is on this one, but it's not as dry as that boat arc over there. And it's really hard, that piece of boat arc. And if you've turned some boat arc that's green versus some that's been sitting around for a while, there's a big difference. Better be sure you have your tools nice and sharp. Good question. Other questions? Okay, so let me make sure I've got this. And the sirens go off. All right, so when this is all said and done, I'll have the tenon here that we'll be getting rid of. We've got screw holes here we'll be getting rid of. So there's a middle part here, say, 3/4 inch either side, center part that we have that gives us the opportunity to do something with. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and clean up this back side and start moving it towards basically just sort of a big cheese wheel shape. Here's one that is further along. This is out of walnut. There's my tenon on the back side. And so it's not all that exciting of a shape, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it next. I'll show you more on that in just a minute. But that's where we're headed with this. This will be a little bit different. We're going to, as we get further into this, we're going to see how this piece of wood's going to behave. Hopefully it's going to be fine. I'm going to switch to another bowl gouge that I haven't used yet since sharpening it, and so okay, that grain's doing a whole lot better, but this part right here that looks like that's going to be popping out. Y'all see that?
You don't put CA in it?
I do. Oh, I can even move that. Yeah. Yeah, that. Yeah, Sharon even spotted that one. This piece right here definitely is going to be popping out sometime soon. And that's okay. Do what? Yeah. Where is that? Okay. By the way, this is one of my handmade tools. I use it a lot to do like a inside tenon. One of the first tools I made. I still use it. Let me just sort of pry that out of there. Oh yeah. Well, I guess I didn't know that, Ron. Okay, well, that way it doesn't fly off, so that'll be a good thing. Let's see how the rest of this behaves here. But really, this is one of the reasons why I love mesquite, is because it is so wild and unpredictable. And right now, I'm just smoothing out this corner here is the intention. Of course, there's now a big void there. Okay, so now we're starting to see where the screw holes were there, and but this right here is going to be really pretty. And sometimes when I'm doing this, with some pieces I change course and I say, I think this is going to be better off as a bowl, and I'll pull it off and say, like that piece of boat arc, I think that may end up being a bowl. But let me take a little more off here, and then we'll talk about some design options. So if I can get going a little bit faster. All right. So, nothing obviously fancy about this right now. It's what I would do. I'm not going to continue with this piece, but what I would end up doing I would keep looking at what I would end up envisioning as what might end up being the front of the bookends, what might end up being the back. And I think what I would probably end up doing is using this as the front of the bookends because of the great color variation in the bark. I would spend some time with CA glue and working to try to keep all this bark in there as much as possible. Some of the most beautiful bookends I've done out of mesquite have had some big bark inclusions, and it really gives some great visual contrast. Really pretty. This piece, like many pieces, has some mystery cracks going down in there. So with that, definitely cannot stress enough, wear your face shield, keep it at a low speed, because you just never know how far a crack goes in there, and you want to be sure that you're always very careful. See, when I look at it, when I look at it this way here, there's not all that much remarkable about that. But when I look at it this way, there's all kinds of potential right there. And so I would probably proceed with this piece here and maybe end up cutting it down the center here and then cut off the bottom fifth there and proceed that way with it. There's really no right way or wrong way to do it. That's the wonderful creative thing I love about wood turning, is it's very there's a lot of freedom to be creative.
And do you cut that on a bandsaw, and do you have like a sled?
Sharon is asking when I cut it. That's been a huge learning curve. Initially, I was using a table saw. I was using a miter cut saw. Then, which those are not all great solutions there. And then I went over to a friend's shop that has a real nice bandsaw, and that was. I don't yet have a really nice bandsaw, but will soon. But the best way, the absolute best way to cut this is with a bandsaw. And what, in this case right here, we still have the tenon on here. Let's talk about this, for example. What I would end up doing is I'd flip it around and just use a jam chuck on this side here, and then I would take off the tenon by turning it that way. There's still a worm screw hole in here, and when I was getting it to this shape, I didn't want to take any more thickness out of this particular piece, so I decided when I do cut this one, you know, when you cut the pith out of a log, for example, I decided I'm going to treat this worm screw hole as sort of like the pith, and I'm going to just cut it either side and just take this out. That way I could keep the thickness here. The way this particular piece was, this is black walnut. I'm going to do some resin work on some of the cracks that are in here. I'm still learning about doing resin work. Don't have a lot of experience with that yet, but haven't been turning all that long. But this piece here has a neat little knot hole area there, and I'm going to fill that with probably some black resin and some other things here.